I would like to begin this video with a question. How many of you all have heard about the scientific method? If you are like me, you heard about it in grade school, and then you stopped hearing about it in high school, if not before. The reason for this is unclear to me, but I think this is one of the reasons why there is a growing disconnect between the public and the research community. And this is also one of the main goals of the evidence tutoring is to bridge this gap. As a side note, evidence tutoring does provide tutoring services in the STEMs. So if you need those, feel free to contact me. But with that said, I would like to take the time in this video to apply the steps of the scientific method to a paper that was published in 2019. And even though it is published last year, it is still relevant to the topic that we are dealing with now, the coronavirus and face mask. So with that said, I would like to introduce you to the topic. The topic of today's article is Optical Microscopic Study of Surface Morphology and Filtering Efficiency of Face Mask. The authors of this paper are based in Kathmandu, Nepal, which is a high polluted area, and like all high polluted areas, they are facing air pollution, and it is so bad that public health officials have recommended wearing face masks to prevent health problems. So the study was done to investigate the efficiency of face masks. Before we go any further, to make sure we are all on the same page, I would like to review the steps of the scientific method. I'm not going to go into detail about each one of these and explain what they are, because they should be self-explanatory since they have been talked about since grade school. So I'm just going to review them here. The first step is make observations. Second, ask a question. Third, form a hypothesis. Fourth, develop an experiment. 5, acquire data. 6, analyze the data. And 7, form conclusions. So, as I mentioned before, I will be reviewing this paper to see how they apply these steps of the scientific method to it. For observations, the authors used the vast amount of knowledge gained from research over the last few decades. They know that particulate matter, or PM, as they note in the research, contributes to the air pollution. And these particles are really small, 2.5 micrometers or 2.5 microns. And in case you don't know, a micron is 100,000th of a meter. So it's really small. So you can imagine if these small particles are getting into people's lungs, they are causing issues. With the various systems of the body. The second observation is by the public health officials recommending face masks to reduce exposure to PM. And this is just, again, it's not obvious. If you have small particles in the air that cause damage when you breathe them, one way to prevent that is by having a barrier. And that is just common sense. The third observation is an observation in the literal sense. The authors noted that of the people who chose to wear a cloth mask, they was washing their mask at home every day or every few days, as they should. In addition, some of the cloth masks they were not made to fit everybody's faces, so they were a one size. So they were made in one size, and unfortunately, the everybody's heads were not made in the same dimension. So you can imagine that some of the cloth masks were being stretched. So these were the observations that the authors noted. In scientific papers, there will be a paragraph that shows why a question was asked, the hypothesis of that, for that question, and the experiments that were done. And in this paper, I have copied and pasted a paragraph that does exactly this. So what are the questions that were asked? First question is, what are microscopic features of cloth mask? Second question is, what are the efficiencies of these masks? And lastly, how does washing and drying and stretching affect cloth mask? So what are the paper's hypotheses? The first one is that cloth mask variable characteristics contribute to different filtering efficiencies. The second hypothesis is that repeated cycles of washing and drying and stretching the cloth mask to fit one's face will affect their effectiveness. To test these hypotheses, the authors will employ 3 different types of methods. The first method is a survey to identify how many people are wearing which type of mask, or how many people are not wearing a mask. The second method is to use a microscope to examine the structural characteristics of the mask. And then the third method is to calculate the visual efficiency on the mask, including the surgical mask. So the next 2 steps are to acquire data and analyze data, and with the last step being to form conclusions. So with that in mind, I would like to go ahead and continue going through the results. In figure 1, we are shown which cloth mask they use, seen in A. B is a surgical mask, or they also call a paper mask. And C is the results of the first method of a survey that they use. As you can see in the graph, around 24% of the population uses a cloth mask, around 7% uses a paper surgical mask, and the other 69% uses no mask. In case you don't know, the plus or minus 2% is a degree of uncertainty associated with each percentage. So that is something you learn in statistics, which is a very useful class for science. So here is figure 1. So let's go ahead and go on to figure 2. In this figure, we have the results of the surface characterization of the cloth mask, represented in A through F, and a characterization of a surgical mask. The 2 things I want to point out is in C and D, they represent the cloth mask 7 and cloth mask 9, respectively. And notice the size of the pores, because that's going to come into play in later figures. In figure 3, we have the results of the filter efficiency of a full cloth mask and the surgical mask. As you can tell, which is seen in A, cloth mask number 9, which is the cloth mask with the largest pores, has a low efficiency, whereas the triple layered surgical mask has a higher efficiency. In B, it just shows us what size of particles was used in this test. And as you can tell, most of the particles were less than 5 micrometers. So this explains the results of A. Figure 4 is looking at the effect of stretching on the surface of the mask. A is an image of a mask that's not stretched. B is one that is stretched. As you can see, the pore size is larger, which means more particulate matter or particles can go through, which means that it's going to reduce the effectiveness. And it's not a big surprise that the more times you wash the cloth mask, and this time they were focusing on number 9, the efficiency goes down. Similar to the same thing with the washing and drying cycles, the pore size is going to expand, which is again going to decrease the effectiveness of the. So now we come to the last step of the scientific method, the conclusions. And here we see that the authors conclude that the cloth masks are not effective, and that what effectiveness they do have decreases after repeated washing and drying cycles, as well as upon stretching. So now I want to leave talking about the paper and talk about how we can use conclusions from the paper to inform us about some of the policies that are in place about the current coronavirus, specifically having to wear a face mask in some public settings. The first thing I want to talk about is the size of a virus particle. So a virus is on the nanoscale, which is a billionth of a meter. The paper will talk about particles that were microns, or a thousandth of a meter. So if some of the cloth masks are ineffective against a particle that's that is larger than a virus, then those same cloth masks are going to be ineffective against the coronavirus. I do think the surgical mask may be slightly more effective, but not by much. The last insight is about the use of the cloth mask. It has been recommended that people using cloth masks wash them on a daily basis. However, as the paper points out, this decreases their effectiveness. And with a cloth mask not being that good at keeping out viruses, by washing them on a daily basis, you are decreasing whatever effectiveness they had to begin with. So the point is that cloth masks are basically useless against the virus. So why are they recommended? Honestly, I don't know, but that's for another video. This video was produced, written, and researched by me, Jesse Evans. I would like to thank Noah Cardle for providing the music. If you have any questions, comments, or disagreements, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. Until I see you again, be safe and have a great day.